welcome to Online for Authors. Today I'm chatting with Pamela Kyel, author of the Charm City Mystery Series. Welcome, Pam.
Hi, thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. Before we really get into things, I want you to give readers like an idea of what they're going to find. But let's start with your book number one, which is Charm City Crab Puff. And what are they going to find when they open up the cover?
You're getting introduced to Lacey, who is the main character. She is a major in the Air Force, and she's out of the Office of Special Investigations. It's kind of like FBI kind of thing, but it's for the military. She's with just the military. So we meet her at the beginning, find out a little bit about her, and find out how she's slowly accumulates house guests and all this other stuff, and then the mystery unfolds. But yeah, that's what you open up to.
Right. And then you have your second book, which is coming out soon,
Mm-hmm.
which is Charm City Spouses Club,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so with that, we're still following Lacey. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm curious, why did you choose Cozy Mystery?
Because that's what I like to read. I'm not a suspense person. I have anxiety. So I don't like to be like on the edge of my seat and biting my nails. And I like funny. So mine, you'll find humor. I thought it was pretty funny. Other people have told me that it is. And so I just like lighthearted, and I like to be entertained. So that's what I like to read, and so that's what I like to write.
That's what you like to write. You have this set in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason you chose Baltimore? Because I think if I'm guessing correctly based on the fact of where you're living because of your time, which is different than mine, that you do not live in Baltimore. Is that correct?
Okay. I don't. I actually was born and raised right outside of Baltimore in Edgewood.
Okay.
So
all right.
They were like, write what you know. So I was like, well, let's stick this at home.
Yeah. So what about Baltimore? I know write what you know, but what about it lent itself to this series? Because you live somewhere else, you could have written about there too. So I'm just curious, why Baltimore? Or is it just a cool city and you said, hey, why not?
Actually, the story the first iteration was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, I want to write what I know, where I could picture the streets in my head. I could picture, like, it's more so in the second one than it is in the first. But I just wanted to put it at some place that I knew that I was born and raised. So yeah, that's probably why.
Well, fantastic. So your main character is Lacey Duvall,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a quirk where she compares things to sweet tea. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that and where you got that idea.
That one just kind of popped in my head. I had submitted my story to somebody to have it. It was an editor. I can't remember the specific kind. And she actually was like, you need to drop this. And I was like, but I like it, because she was always talking about wanting to drink tea. And I was like, I like it. And then it just popped in my head. The very first couple lines in the first book was about, sometimes your tea has lemon in it.
Right.
And it just kind of took off from there. And she just does it with men. She does not do it with women.
No, and I just found it to be so funny because she does describe different people she meets as like, should this be hot tea? Is this cold tea? Does it have sugar? Does it have lemon? Is it too sweet? And all of the things. She has someone in the first book that I can't remember his name, but he is an old boyfriend, an old flame of hers.
Yes.
What was his name?
Antonio Decio.
That's right. Okay. And she says that we just skip the tea and go straight to fine wine with him. And I loved that. I thought that was really funny. It was a very cute. And I think what I like about it is we all have quirky things that we do, and it makes her very relatable.
Yes.
Where you could just imagine her like looking at different people and going, well, that's that kind of tea,
Yes.
I love that. You also have a quirky cast of characters. She, in the very beginning, she seems to be rather a loner. And then before long, she's got this whole cast of quirky people. I want to know, of all of those, Who is your favorite?
Oh my gosh.
That's hard. I know it's like picking your children.
I don't know. It's probably still going to be Lacey is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Just because I see she is like me, but she's also not like me. Excuse
So
me.
let's talk about that. How is she like you? How is she not?
Um, and just some of her, I think she mentions it might be in the second one about having ADHD, and I have ADHD, and so my mind is just constantly pinging everywhere. And she goes back home, and just some of her sense of humor. You'll see it more in the second one, um, where she's learning the the I just forgot what I was going to say. How do I say it? The language of like the younger
Yes. Yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
it's just that so me because I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she is all the time. I'm like, what?
What
And
do you say?
so
Yeah. Please say that in regular English. I don't know what you're
yes,
saying, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I mean, I love all my characters, but yeah, she's probably still gonna be my favorite. The
Yeah.
following two are probably tied for which one I like better.
I can't, I'm so bad with names,
That's
not only in real life, but in books as well. The Uber driver,
yes, Rev.
Rev.
Yes.
I find him to be so funny. I
Okay.
really like him. But I actually like all the characters, and there's so many times as she's collecting these people, and I'm thinking, especially in that first book, as
Mhm.
she's getting this collection, and it's like, these people don't match.
No,
You
yeah.
know, we've got Lacey, we've got a woman with twins who
Yes.
like shows up, right?
Yeah.
We've got a police officer who is nothing like Lacey at all, despite the fact they have similar jobs. We've got
Mhm.
this Uber driver guy. We've got the hot Italian guy. We've got, and it's kind of like, wow, this is a real crazy cast. And I like that you made them so diverse in terms of not even just, color or that kind of
Mhm.
thing, but diverse in terms of like just how they meet the world.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thanks.
So, do you find your characters like because people like that, or like where did you come up with some of these ideas for these crazy cast of people? Like, are they in your own life and therefore they're in your book, or
Honestly, Rev is kind of in my life. I based him off of my brother.
okay?
He's a big guy, drives like, you know what? He's gonna kill me for saying that, but
We didn't give his name. The police won't be after him. That's
no,
good.
no. But um that much, but yeah, Cassie is the African American policewoman.
Right?
She was a lot of fun because I just like the way she speaks. It's just
Yeah.
fun and it's musical to me. And then Sammy is a lot in my mom because my mom's from West Virginia. So she's got that twang, and the Southern sayings is always so fun to throw out there
Yes.
because
Yes.
everyone I use, I have heard from somebody in my family.
Right.
So it's like, okay, somebody was like, what is Swanee? And I was like, having to explain it. I'm like, I had an aunt that she loved saying that.
I
So
swat.
yes,
I
exactly.
swatty.
I love it. So yeah. And the mob guys, Zuka, like she says in the book, means pumpkin. We lived in
Yeah.
Italy. And so I got that from Zuka because it's just a fun thing, but not based on anybody really. It's more just I didn't want to make him the typical mob boss, so he's kind of a little bit different.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's what I like is there isn't anyone that is super stereotypical. Like
Okay.
you would expect an Air Force major to be a certain way, and
Mhm.
Lacey doesn't quite meet that. And you would expect a police officer to be a certain way. And nope, not quite. And you would
Yeah.
expect, and I like that because it's kind of like breaking the stereotypes, and yet you use some stereotypes by putting in things like West Virginia slang.
Yeah.
But it works because you also show other sides of these characters. So
That's good.
yeah, I really like it. I'm curious. Your second book is a military spouses club. Do you have experience with Military Spouses Club, or did you have to do a lot of research on that?
No, I do have experience as Military Spouses Club.
Okay.
Some of that is military spouses, some of it is HOA, just to be honest. So
Right, right. And it's similar.
it's
There's a
very
lot of
similar.
similarities, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about that story and what people are going to find, because this is your second one,
hmm
right? And I believe, if I'm correct, it's launching soon.
Yes, it comes out April 2nd.
Well, fantastic, and
Yeah,
congratulations on
thank
that.
you.
And so tell us a little bit about like what they're going to find in this story.
Um, the second one is different from the first in that it's outside of the city. I will say first. It is more military, very much more in line with what you've got the military lingo, you've got the military, the husbands that are serving. One is coming back from a deployment and all this other stuff. So it's very much more immersed inside of life in the military. Being Air Force, and you get that point of view from her because she's Air Force and she's looking at the Army. And
Right,
there's very much a difference between Air Force and Army, and
right,
they will
right,
all tell you that.
right, right, right. Um, was there a lot of research involved, or did you really go from what you knew and just wrote from there?
Um, there was a bit of there was research, because I'm trying to remember what happened. Oh, because I don't know a lot about like how, like the way that she died and all that other stuff.
Right,
I don't know a lot about that. And I had to go back, and we went back to Maryland this summer, and I had to go back and look over places to make sure they still existed. Like there was a place, like she talks about in there, where's Beta's shoes, and then where is this? And so that
right.
was, I did some of that research this summer. But yeah, a lot of it was based on experiences I had with as being a military spouse. Some of it's just fun and is very much exaggerated. So don't that they're not
Yes, yeah,
all,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but I had a good experience and I had a bad experience in spouses club. So, you get
So you
both.
were able to kind of like draw on
Yes.
those and say, what would it
Mhm.
be like if, right? Right.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
do hear a lot. I'm not military, but I've heard a lot about spouses clubs and how they can be a little bit, who's in charge,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
have to follow the pecking order, and the whole thing. And if you try to step
Mhm.
out of that order, it can be like a big hullabaloo.
Oh, it is. Yep.
And like you said, same with an HOA. It's the same
Yes.
kind of thing. It's like,
Yep.
who's in charge, who's got the camera, who's taking the pictures of the
Yeah.
violations, right? So
Yes. Oh, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, why a series?
Um, because my editor was, and who I published with was like, okay, we want a series. And I was like, okay, because I really wanted to just stay with them anyway,
Yeah,
because you get to where you really like them. And I kind of liked the second one more than I liked the first one. I was just figuring stuff out in the first one, and the second one, I got to be a little bit more, go in a different direction and do different things with them. And you really start to get to know them.
yes.
And it's just having fun with it. And I just want to stay with them and, as long as, I feel like doing it and um, watch them grow, see what other kind of
Right.
fun stuff they can get into. So yeah.
How many do you think will be in the series?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
No idea.
I've been struggling with writing the third one, and I am like, I just started my fifth chapter of writing the third one.
Okay.
And so at this point, I have absolutely no idea.
So you don't, with your publishing company, they haven't given you like, we want 3 or we want
Mm-mm.
7 or we want, okay. All right. Yeah, I was just
No.
curious. So do you see yourself ever like ending this series, starting something else?
Um, It's hard to say right now. I don't mind. I've got like several different things also going at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got like some short stories that I've been writing whenever this is kind of in the works with the publisher has it that I
Right.
work on. And so kind of, stagger them. But uh just trying to juggle all of that right
Oh
now.
yeah.
I really couldn't say how long. I mean, it just is. I mean, I'm hoping that it'll take off and that this will be the next best thing since sliced bread. But we all have dreams.
Right, right. I'm just curious if you have any other characters that are kind of knocking in your head saying,
Oh,
"Hey, I've got a series. If you'll just get done with this one, I've got one." Do you have anything like
uh,
that in the background?
I actually wrote a book during COVID. We were in Illinois, and my youngest was in kindergarten or first grade, and she was doing the at-home school.
Right,
And so I would sit on the floor in front of her, and I would write. And so I have that one. And I was just reading it the other day, and I was like, this one wasn't bad. But I did the whole querying for an agent and
yeah,
just didn't have any luck.
right, right.
And so I was in the process of writing a second one for that when I actually created the character of Lacey. And I was like, I am going to take her because she was in the Air Force. Because this book takes places in Great Falls in Montana, which is where there's an Air Force base. We were stationed
Right,
there a long time
right,
ago. So I have this one, and I'm like, I could still do something. It's kind of the same, cozy mystery, the same
right,
setup, kind of
right.
stuff, but just completely different people. So yeah, that one, I just thought that the other day. I'm like, maybe I'll just look at that
Maybe
again.
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
I like how that happens where you write something and it just doesn't really go anywhere, and then you look back later and you think, I wonder if I could do something with
Yeah.
this, you know?
Yeah.
I have one that I wrote. I don't think I'll ever be able to do anything. It was like the first thing I ever wrote. And I tell people that it would take so much editing. I think it would be better to like throw it out and start completely new. But
Oh,
I can't throw it out because it was the first thing that I ever actually wrote. But we learn so much.
yeah.
And I heard you say now several times that you like the second book better than the first. I like the second one. I like the second one. It's what you've been saying about this series. And it's interesting. I think it's because in the first one, you have to do a lot of developing these characters. And
Mhm.
in the second one, you get to let them be who they are,
Yes. Yes. I agree.
And so
Hmm.
the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, from those on, now you know them
Hmm.
and you just get to let them be. I
Hmm.
have a question about writing a series like this,
Uh-huh.
just because I don't write them. I
Oh, okay.
when I am done with my character at the end of that book, I'm like, okay, poof, put you aside and go on. I'm assuming, and I read both, so I've read both of yours,
Oh, okay.
but I did it in a row. But I'm assuming that you can read the second one without having read the
Oh,
first one. Is that correct?
hmm. Yep.
How do you determine what to put in that second book to make sure that your characters are still known and well-rounded without boring the people who've read the first book and who are going to read all the others? Because like
Hmm.
it'd be like going into the next grade in school, and the first 2 months all they do is repeat everything that you learned last
Hmm.
year, and you're just sitting there bored to death. And
Hmm.
I didn't feel bored to death, so I'm not saying
Okay.
that. I'm asking you, how do you figure that out so that you're
Um,
not boring your readers who are your readers, and
mhm.
yet you're getting new people in at various stages in your series?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was not an easy process of writing it. I thought that reading about other people and I hear other authors talking about, oh, this is not easy. They're hearing from fans, why aren't you writing more? And it's like it's a process and it's hard. And
Yeah.
it is a more of a process because you have to create new situations, create um something that you haven't done before, and to make sure to keep people interested in it. The case that she's working on needs to be different. It's just I don't
And
know.
adding new characters
Hmm.
and coming into new people and all
Hmm.
of the things that have to be done. I felt, like I said, I didn't feel like you over told me about Lacey again, but you
Yes.
must have done enough telling that someone who is reading that
Hmm.
doesn't feel like, oh, I've missed something huge.
Yeah.
Where's book
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
And I think that would be the hardest part for me. I mean, yes, coming up with new situations and new characters, but for me it would be, how do you bring the knowledge that they need from the first book into the second book?
I think that I covered that like in the very first chapter. she was able to say, you know, I came back home from my job, and this is what I do. This is how I met Sammy. This is how I
Right.
met Cassie, you know, and then Antonio comes in, and I put in as a funny talking to the reader. You read that one, didn't you? You know, or you saw that one. So that was kind of a way of saying, oh, you know, I didn't know if my editor would let me do it, but she was fine with it.
Yeah.
It's like,
No,
okay.
and like I said, I read them back to back,
Hmm.
and I didn't feel like, oh, I can just skip chapter one.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a rehash.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I'm a skipper. I tend to skip if I, it's like, get me to.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel that way. So you obviously
Oh,
did a
good.
really good job of it. I sit and think, gosh, how would I do that?
Hmm.
Like,
No, I know.
how do you pick the salient points, the things
Hmm.
they have to know versus everything I think they should know?
Hmm.
Like I've got a character, it's got all of these different things going on. How do I pick which one of those one or two things are the
Hmm.
most necessary so that a new reader, and yeah, I would go crazy. I would have to write like the whole first book again and then add the second book. It'd be hard for me. So
Yeah. Well, I have read Janet Evanovich, and or Ivanovich, I don't know how to pronounce
yeah,
her name. I've read her book on writing also. And I can't remember if that was in the book or if I just picked up on it, that she talks about how you just touch on it enough in the second one so that you've caught people up.
right.
And
And
so,
and you do it early.
yes,
You
you
get
very
that
much
done
have to do it
kind of
early.
in the first chapter, and
Yeah.
then you move on with your new story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I thought, like I said, I really enjoyed both.
Oh,
Um,
good.
so what's next now is this book three, which
Hmm.
you are busy writing,
Trying.
trying. When do you hope to have book three out? Like book two, I know is not even out yet, so it's
Hmm.
unfair to ask you, but
No, it's
I'm
fine.
going to anyway. When do you see that coming out? Do you hope for one a year? Do you hope for
Yeah.
one every 6 months? Where are you?
I am a one a year. My publisher was ready to release this one like next week. And I was like, I would like to push it back so that it's one a year.
One a year, right?
This time I'm going to be pushing it back even further from the spring to the fall, because the way I was doing it was my daughter was home from school during the summer, and I was really having a hard time juggling getting things finished, getting things to the editor in time. And we were in North Carolina, and I was reading and editing, and I was trying to get stuff done. So I'm trying to push it back to I will probably submit it in right before school starts, or around August or so, because she takes about a month to read it. And
Okay.
so that will give me, like, once my kid gets back in school, I'll be able to, okay, now I can sit down and do
Now
the
I
stuff
can
that
sit
needs
down
to
and
be
do
done.
more. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably I'm looking at probably next fall, not 2025, but the following
Right.
fall.
Right. 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 So I also want to know if you are a pantser or a plotter.
I'm very much a pantser, and
Are you?
it's gonna be the death of me, I swear.
I was going to say, I think doing a mystery as a pantser would be tough. I'm a pantser.
Okay.
I'm 100% pantser. I am so pantser that I don't have any plot in me. Like I am
Oh
a
yeah.
pantser. And
Yeah.
so, but I think, gosh, how would you do a mystery where you kind of have to drop little tidbits
Hmm.
along the way?
Hmm.
And how do you do that when you don't know what the way is? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So is there a lot of editing that goes on then when you're a pantser and writing mystery like this?
Well, I know what's going to happen. I know what this plot is going to be. I
Okay.
know um, what the mystery is going to be, for lack of a
Okay.
better word, what she's got to figure out. I know what that is. But like, I don't
Everything
have it.
else that happens is
Yes.
just,
I don't have an outline. Like, I'm creating new characters, and then I have in mind beforehand, am I going to reintroduce somebody? Am I going
okay.
to bring this character back? Am I going to bring this one back? And it's like some of them I'm like, okay, they're going to wait, for this book, and then I will, like, Rev is going to be in the third one.
Okay.
I actually have I have a one between a two and a three. That was a short story that I wrote. Um, and so he's in that as well. So it's yes, I'm very much a pantser, and I kind of have ideas okay, I got to do this, I got to do this. But yeah, everything else is just like, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I write and then I'm always surprised. I
Yes.
feel like I'm as surprised as the reader as I'm going through and it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, we could do that. Ooh, look at what's going to happen next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I find that I have to do quite a bit of editing
Oh,
because I'll go back through and I'll read and I'll think, ooh, in order for that to really work, they need some
Yes.
information. And I'll make little notes, before chapter 6, I need to make sure that I add in, whatever. And then I have to go back because I'm not a plotter. If I'd been a plotter, I would have known that I was going to need that, but I didn't know it until all of a sudden my characters said, hey, this would be a good idea. And I'm like, you're right, it would be. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that.
And
So,
beta
hey, guys.
readers, I would say
Go ahead.
beta readers are helpful too, because I've got two. I've got Karen and then I've got somebody else, and Sandy, and they both will catch that stuff sometimes. 'Cause
Yes.
I've gone back through and fixed stuff, but if I miss something, they're both like, "Oh, hey!" And Karen's
Hey,
really
just
good
so
at
you
that.
know, yes, she is.
Yes,
She is.
she's
Of
very
course, Karen, and we're talking about Karen Whalen, who is also a cozy mystery author, and she is a plotter.
Yes,
She
I
is.
know.
She is a like
So great.
I am so far to one side of being a pantser, and she is so far to the
Yes.
other being a plotter. And it's funny when we talk because it's almost like we have two different jobs.
Yes,
know?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, because but it's wonderful, and you're right. She does catch things like that. She's got a great eye that way. She's got
she
a great
does.
eye. So, hey guys, if you want to continue this book conversation, head on over to Novels and Latte book club on Facebook. There, you're going to have an opportunity to win a digital copy of Pam's first book, which is Charm City Crab Puff. So head on over there and find out how you can win. Pam, if someone wanted to get up with you, they wanted to talk with you about your writing style, or they wanted to ask a question about what's coming up next, or anything about writing, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Oh, I'm everywhere. I have a presence on LinkedIn. I also have Facebook. I also have TikTok, and I have Instagram, and I have a webpage. And they
Super.
can. I have a newsletter that goes out. I will contact people in my newsletter if they want to be advanced readers for reading the next one to help me get reviews and stuff like that. So
Super.
yeah,
Super.
I'm pretty covered.
Super. And I'll have all those links in the show
Yay.
notes, guys. So run right out, grab a copy of Charm City Crab Puff, and then, I don't know if it's up for pre-order yet, but as soon as it is, you definitely need to get Charm City Spouses Club, which was fantastic. And thank you for being on the show today, Pamela.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.